Hi, everybody. Welcome back to part 3 of our video series with Pepper Griggs, who's talking to us about her Restorative Response System Theory. Watch for the new book to come out soon. And today we are talking about, in this video, we're talking about the flight response and Pepper's restorative response to that, which is rise. So Pepper, unpack that one for us.
Yes. So we use the word rise because Thor starts with an S.
I like it though.
Yeah. And a few of these, that's kind of how it works, is it's like we're using one word because we're trying to stick with, F's and R's. And so rise is really a call for us to rise and meet ourselves in a space.
Yeah.
Flight is, I want to pick my feet up. I want to run out of this space. I want to get away from this discomfort, this danger, this threat, this shame. And so when you find yourself in a flight response and you're wanting to check out, you want to just get out of the space. This is where the goal is to rise and meet yourself there. Why do I want to run? Is there really threat happening here? Let's go ahead and run, but then where to? Where are we going?
Right.
And it's not enough to just run until the threat of danger seems less, right? It's so important that where we run to is going to not be more danger.
Yes, this is true. No, from the frying pan into the fire.
Right. So I talk about in the book that sometimes you feel the flight response, and for some people, they will run towards the fire.
True.
And for some people, they will run from the fire.
Yeah.
And the flight response doesn't make sense because it's not thinking about the end game.
True.
It is only thinking about getting out of this immediate present danger.
Yes. Yes.
And I want to speak to survivors about that piece, because sometimes it can feel like we just make poor choices, but it's really a flight response that got misdirected. Or it just simply doesn't make sense in the present moment or the moment after trauma, but in the present moment of trauma, it was the only thing that made sense.
Yes.
So we talk about this in the book, and I really want to just have people remind themselves that, again, this is from compassion.
Yeah.
And when you find yourself running in the wrong directions to the wrong people, sometimes we run to what's familiar because it's the evil we know.
Yep. Been there, done that.
And when you look at the history of cattle ranching, there was this thing they used to do when they would migrate the cattle from one area to another. Yeah. So when a storm would come up, the riders would get on their horses and they would run the cattle in a circle.
Okay.
And so because their flight response was going to be engaged, the urge to run when there is thunder and lightning is big. And these, you've got herds of thousands of bovine, they're going to go, right? But if you can get them to run together, to group up and run together, then you can get them to run in circles, which is going to keep it's honoring their flight response.
Right. Yes.
But keeping them safely within the community.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And sometimes we do this to ourselves in the wrong way. Right. My husband calls it the cul-de-sac. So sometimes we find ourselves with this one issue that comes from a trauma usually, and we just go in circles with it. And we're just flying around in circles, right? Yeah. And so if you have ever felt that way, kudos to you. You're having an appropriate reaction, and it's safe, right? It feels safe. It doesn't benefit you later on, but in that present moment, it's keeping you alive.
Yes.
It keeps you from being exiled and lonely. It keeps you from being, or whatever you perceive, the bigger, Because sometimes you're in more than one type of danger. And so you'll choose what seems to be the lesser danger.
Lesser the danger. Or it keeps us in our uncomfortable comfort zone.
Yes.
We don't like it, but it's better than what seems like the triple highway just on the other side of the hedge.
Right. Yeah. So flight is one that won't always make sense. Most of trauma responses don't make sense. And that's because what's happening is when your body is moved into that space, your mind has moved into that space, the hemispheres are not communicating facts and logic. They have shut down. All your executive functions are shut down for the purposes of serving you in survival, to get you out of danger. So there's no ability to say to somebody, like, you can't even teach somebody who's in an active space, oh, I see that you are in a flight response. Let's calm down. Let's do some breath work. This will not compute. No. This will just add to it and push them further into other trauma responses. You might shift them into a fight response. You might shift them into a fawning response. And
shame response.
And a shame response. So, that's not conducive to healing.
No.
It's not conducive to repair. It's not conducive to restoration.
No.
So the goal is to rise to meet yourself. Where am I going? I'm clearly running. Where do I need to run to? And you can't get there in that moment all the time. But what you will find is that if you are conditioned to these responses, and adolescent trauma does a wonderful job of this for you, is it keeps you conditioned to this go-to response, right?
Yeah.
So when you start recognizing your patterns and you start, instead of shaming yourself, because shame is always going to kill curiosity.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you can capture the shame and you can engage in curiosity, why do I run to that?
Yeah.
Why do I run to that same toxic person?
Right. Exactly.
Because they're probably the evil, and so you know how to fawn and fight with them, and when to freeze and when not to freeze, right?
Right.
You're conditioned for that.
Right.
And the discomfort scares us. It takes a lot of courage to move out of what's comfortable. And it's going to take a great deal of compassion to make these moves and mess up.
Yes.
So important in the healing journey.
Yes. And to realize that's a normal part of the process.
Yes.
Yeah.
So rise to meet yourself. And if you can't rise to meet yourself, get a coach that does. And, the goal isn't to be like, oh, I see you running, and shaming you for it. I hate that. I hate when we're like, I see you in a running space, but if I can say, where are we running today? Where are we running today? What are we running from? Sometimes it's important to know what you're running from first. Or if you know that you're running towards something that's not good, and just to be able to say it, oh, I'm running towards that X because I know them. I need them in my life for this season, I think.
Yeah. I think
it doesn't even have to make sense. And this is the, being meaning-making machines. We want it all to make sense, right? So if we can step back from that with compassion and go, okay, you want to run to this individual. I'm not shaming you for that, but let's explore what does it seem like they fulfill? Let's go meet that. Where can we rise to meet that somewhere else?
Yes.
Now we're taking this maladaptive situation and we've shifted it, right?
Yeah. And we have given ourselves the gift of being able to soar above that place we would normally fly to.
Mm-hmm.
And gosh, when you're up there above all the places that you could see that you could go.
The bigger picture. Oh, man. Yeah. And you start to see how this affects you, mind, body, and soul. And you start to see how, these are the rest of the patterns. Oh, this is, when you're in the cul-de-sac and you're running circles, you're going to see house.
Right.
mailbox, mailbox, mailbox. When you come above that cul-de-sac and you're looking down at it, you can see a community.
Right.
You can see a space that is either safe or not. You can see that there's nowhere to go. Right. And so maybe you find the exit. When you come out, you can find that exit to the place that's going to get you further down the road to where you really want to be.
Exactly.
To the street you really want to be on.
Right. Right. Yes.
So rise to meet yourself and soar above things. And if you're in a flight space, don't be upset with yourself about it. Like, honor it. Okay, I'm in a flight space.
Yeah.
This showed up for me in my life last fall, whenever my life had imploded. And I was like, I got to get out of here. I needed to get away from this space of intense negative energy around me.
Yeah.
And it all just felt like it was just right on me, just like this intensity. So I went back to a place where I grew up, and part of me needed to go back to the land of my ancestors to heal. And I could have just gone back to old ways and just participated in toxicity and gotten myself deeper in a hole there. But when I got there, I made this pact with myself that we're not in this space who we've ever been. Yeah. And this time in this space is not like any time we've ever been here before.
Yep.
And what that means is that instead of being controlled by these situations, instead of running to that fire, I can now take a step back and evaluate what's the best way to fight this fire. Maybe I need to go back into fight and honor that and fight this fire. Maybe I need to freeze this fire. All these are appropriate responses.
Yes, and all options. Yeah, all within your power.
Yep. And so in that space, it was a great time to deconstruct. It was a great time to pull all these pieces apart and then revisit them. And it's complex trauma, right? So I would pull one string out and, oh, look, there's 3 or 4 things attached to you. Let's go back to the ball here. Okay. Oh, look, a new string. Oh, it's attached to this string. Let's, it's this is life. This is recovery from trauma. This is restoration.
Yep.
And there's no timeline on this,
no.
And so as long as I was moving forward, I felt good about it.
Yes.
And I honored this flight response, and I rose to meet myself in this space. And before I left there again, I was soaring above so much that it was just like, I could have really just gotten in the crap of life there.
Yes, you could have really crashed and burned.
I could have. And I had the option many a time.
Yes.
But, in choosing that, I want more than to stay adrenaline junkie. I want more than to treat symptoms. I want more than existence. Yeah. I want to heal what's mine, because one thing I for sure learned in that space was when I rose to meet myself and start healing my wounds, I started healing the wounds of my mother, who passed away a few years ago. And her and I did not have a good, healthy relationship at all. She died with us having a toxic relationship, which left a lot of things unresolved for me.
Yeah.
And it healed the wounds of my grandmother, who perpetuated just as much trauma as she suffered in her lifetime.
Yeah.
It healed things that just generationally go back into my DNA and those before me, and those that, even in my child, that I could see things bubbling up. And I'm just like, oh, we're cycle breakers in this house, little one. This is not. And I rose to meet those things. Yeah. And so when you find yourself running and in a space of just trying to get away, give yourself somewhere to go to.
Yeah.
And that is the RReST response.
That is the RReST response. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Pepper, and thank you everyone for being with us for this video. Next video, we're going to talk about the freeze response and the restorative response to that, which is to resolve. Okay, we will see you in part 4. Bye.